Hi everyone. Today, while everyone is taking the test, you're going to practice using the compass that you got in class the other day. And your compass looks a little different than mine, but you do have a little clear circle that you're going to put your finger on to hold it in place. And then you have a slider where you press in the middle of your slider to get it to move back and forth. On mine, I have to just tighten it when I want it to stop at a certain spot, but you just have to lift your finger up and it'll stop there. And then you have two holes on the slider. One, you can put your pencil in closer to the place where you're holding your finger down, and one you can put your pencil in at the other end. And either one of them will work for what we're doing, and sometimes you may have to switch from one to the other depending on the diagram that we're using and the length of your compass. All right, so what we're gonna do today is we're just gonna practice drawing some circles with a compass. So what I want you to do is to just get a clean piece of paper. I want you to put a dot in the middle of your paper. That's the first point we're going to start at. And then you're going to line up. If you look at your compass, there's little lines that intersect in the center of the circle, the clear circle. And you're going to put that place where they intersect on the dot that you drew. And then what I want you to do is I want you to slide the slider so that you've made a circle that has a radius of approximately like 1 1/4 inches. So somewhere around where the little pointer hits the 3 centimeter mark would work fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a measurement that so that we don't have circles that are too big for what we want to do on this paper. All right, so once you have that, just double check that your dot is still, that your intersection point is still on the dot. And then you're going to draw a circle with your pencil. So you put your pencil into one of those holes and then you draw a circle. Now, don't feel bad if the first time you draw a circle, it doesn't look perfect, all right? Because it takes some practice to get used to using a compass and making really good circles, and that's the entire reason why we're doing this activity today. So you may want to pause this video and practice to get a pretty good looking circle. Now, you're definitely going to make mistakes while you're doing this activity, so don't get discouraged. It takes practice to get really good at it. So you may want to, pause or restart this video once you feel like you have a good circle that you're able to work on, like a decent circle that connects to the other side. All right. Well, I'm going to assume that you've perfected a circle. And so now what I want you to do is I want you to start building circles that have the same radius off of this one. So I have not moved my slider. My slider is exactly in the same spot that it was when I first made this first circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a point on the edge of this circle. It doesn't matter where. You can literally pick any point. So I'm just going to put a little small point on the edge of the circle. And then I'm going to put the intersection, I call it the bullseye of the compass, on that point. So I'm lining up the intersection points, the lines that are going, they're very light, so you have to look really closely. And then you put the intersection point on that point that I just put on the edge of the circle. And I'm going to make another circle that has exactly the same radius as the one that I made originally. And if you swing it around, you'll see that the point, center point from your original circle ends up right in the hole of your second when you're making your circle. So you should have two circles that intersect just like this. Now, if you can see on my video, I don't know if it's close enough, but mine slid a tiny little bit when I made it. All right, that's going to happen. Ideally, you want to make sure that it doesn't slide, but it's going to at times when you're doing these constructions, and that's why we use pencil, so we can erase it if we need to and redo it. Mine slid just so slightly that I'm not going to bother to fix it right now because I don't think it's going to affect my final picture that I'm doing. So, sorry, excuse me. When I created these two circles, I created these two intersection points right up here, top and bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this compass and leave it exactly the same radius, and I am now going to create a circle whose center is at each one of those intersection points. So the same exact radius that I used before, and I'm going to draw another circle with a center at that point. And then I'm going to draw another circle at that bottom intersection point. Well, for you it looks like top because it's reversed. I have the camera facing this on the other side of me. So I'm going to make a fourth circle with the intersection point. So basically it doesn't matter if it's top or bottom, you're putting a circle at the top, sorry, and at the bottom. So far I have my original circle, and then I have 3 circles sort of bordering the original circle. All right, and if you notice, when I drew those 2 additional circles, I created more intersection points. I have one here, and I have one here. So I'm going to continue this pattern around the original circle. I'm going to turn my paper because it's just easier for me to work with. You can turn your paper whatever you want to do. You can turn it to make it, work easiest for you. So I'm putting the bullseye on that next intersection point. And then I'm going to draw another circle. And then I'm going to go back to that other intersection point I just made after I had made my 3rd circle. I had those 2 points there. So I'm going to draw another circle at that point too. And again, this takes practice. I've been doing a lot of this. And so that's why mine look kind of nice and neat, even though they're not as neat as I would have liked. But they look pretty good. And then if you notice, if you've really done it accurately, those last 2 circles that you constructed are intersecting at the exact same point on that circle. So I'm going to make one last circle at that point. So I have the center circle, and then I have 6 circles going around that point. Now, your compass is also a straight edge, and in constructions, that's all you use is a compass and a straight edge. So you can see already a lot of patterns developing in this just by putting in that first circle and the 6 bordering circles that I have around that original circle. So you can play with this pattern. You can do all sorts of things. Like you see these petals in the middle here. You can do, if you wanted to practice this, you could just color those in. Also, what you can do with these constructions, and you end up getting a lot of shapes out of this particular pattern. This pattern is an ancient pattern. It's called the seed of life. And there's a lot of history that goes into these shapes that I'm not really going to go into, but almost all of the constructions that we are going to do in class are based on this particular pattern. Like we're going to get a lot of shapes out of this pattern that you maybe wouldn't think that we would get out of this pattern. Like we're going to get a triangle out of this pattern. We're going to get a cube out of this pattern. You can get a hexagon out of this pattern. You can get a pentagon. There's a way to get a pentagon out of this pattern. It's very complicated, so I'm not going to go through how to do that. But there's a little equilateral triangle sitting right up here. If I look at these 2 points here and this intersection point and I connect them, there's an equilateral triangle on there. I'll connect them just so you can see it. And actually, if I do that at each one of the intersection points, so there's another equilateral triangle because I've used the same radius on all of these circles. So I'm getting equilateral triangles because I know that all these little distances from the center to the edge of the circle are all the same distance. That's the radius of the circle. So if I keep connecting all these points, which I'm going to try and do it faster so you're not just watching me connect everything, connect them all, I'm going to get a shape. Got a couple more to go. Just 2 more to go. That last line was slightly off, but that's why we do this in pencil. We've got 1 more to go. And I hope you can see it. If not, I'm going to go over it in a pen. But there is a 6-pointed star. You can probably see it here. I'm going to darken it with a pen. You can also do colored pencils if you're, if you have those. You don't have to, but it's kind of fun. They make all sorts of patterns with compasses. A lot of art is done with a compass, especially with some mathematical principles called the golden ratio that preserves the proportions of even just your face. Your face has math in it. There's all sorts of things that we can go into, but in our curriculum, we're just going to be creating some basic shapes with the compass, and they all come from what you just did. So what I want for you to do for the remainder of the period is I want you to play with this. I want you to take paper and your compass, and I want you to experiment with the types of shapes you can get by just using the compass and a straight edge. See? 5-pointed star. If you look on the inside here, do I have another color? Hold on, I may have another color that I can do this with. Oh, I do. I have a lot of colored pencils, you probably just heard. Do you see in here? I have a hexagon in here. All right, so your job for the rest of the period is to just play with this. Make mathematical patterns, make pretty patterns, make interesting patterns, but you can only use a straight edge and a compass to do them. See the hexagon? All right, so I'm challenging you just to play with this and get some experience with the compass. That's really the main point of this. And also to see what kind of patterns you can find by doing this. If you wanted to, you could expand this diagram. You could take each one of these intersection points and start a circle there, make a circle there, make a circle all the way around, and the pattern expands. You'd need really big paper, or you'd need to start out with a smaller circle. But you could expand it and then see what other patterns you can get. I'll just show you a picture, something that I did. This is actually called, so a lot of these shapes in here are what they call the platonic solids. And there's I'll just try to point one out to you. All the blue lines make something called an icosahedron, and there's some information up on the Power School Learning page that talks about polyhedra, if you were interested in looking at it. There's a shape in the inside here that's called a dodecahedron. And I have an actual dodecahedron shape. This is like a stone that I bought. And it has pentagon faces, and you can find the dodecahedron is in here. It's in purple in here if you want to take a look. But you don't have to go this complicated. I think this is enough just for practicing with the compass. Just being able to do something like this, or even just practicing making circles, is going to make our construction unit so much easier for you. All right, so have fun for the rest of the period with the compass and drawing.